The Supreme Court formally asked to overturn landmark same-sex marriage ruling. 10 years after the Supreme Court extended marriage rights to same-sex couples nationwide, the justices this fall will consider for the first time whether to take up a case that explicitly asks them to overturn that decision. Kim Davis, the former Kentucky county clerk who was jailed for 6 days in 2015 after refusing to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple on religious grounds, is appealing a $100,000 jury verdict for emotional damages plus $260,000 for attorney fees. So this lady decided not to give a license to a same-sex couple that decided to get married. She refused. She went to jail. She was sued over it. She owes $360,000 because of it. She is appealing this to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to consider whether or not they actually want to actually think about this case. Personally, I see this getting a lot of attention, a lot of people talking about it, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. We have two judges, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. I think that they very much would not only overturn it, but they definitely are going to vote to hear it. You need 4 individuals of the 9 justices to actually hear it. So I think we definitely have 2 who are willing to hear it because they both were against it. John Roberts was also against it, but John Roberts also believes in what they call stare decisis. Basically meaning if it's precedent, if it's already been established, we're not going to overturn it. Just he doesn't want to make the country or the Supreme Court look illegitimate, which in my opinion, that's exactly why I feel the Supreme Court is becoming illegitimate in the eyes of so many people, is because they don't actually listen to the cases. I feel like so many different sides of this political landscape, because of the political sides and because of the dividing that's going on and this bifurcation, it's feeling less and less legitimate, especially with a lot of the lower courts making all these demands with the things that are going on with Trump. Sometimes I think it makes sense that Trump has lost some of these cases, but the majority of them, I think that they're scratching and crawling all that they can do to stop Trump and his mission for moving forward. So it is what it is. I just, again, though, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. John Roberts, I think he too strong in support of keeping precedent. Gorsuch, so he was opposed to recognizing same-sex marriage when this thing happened, but he also tends to lean towards just keeping things as is. The stare decisis. Kavanaugh, I really don't know where he's going to go with this. I don't think he would overturn it either. And Barrett, to me, I think she probably disagreed with it when it was signed and that she didn't support it, that she supports traditional marriage. My understanding is she signed some letter saying that she does support it. But if I'm being honest, I don't think that she also is going to try to overturn it. Now, if they do end up considering this, I think there is a small chance that they rule based on her religious liberties and maybe they narrow the scope. But I don't think they're going to overturn it. If anything, I think they'll just give her a specific, like, yeah, you have your religious convictions. We won't make you pay for this, or maybe all of it or some of it, or I don't know. But I definitely don't think that they're going to overturn it. And again, let's say that they do. Back in 2022, our Congress passed the Respect for Marriage Act. This specifically, the act replaces provisions that define, for the purpose of federal law, marriage as between a man and a woman, and spouse as a person of the opposite sex, with provisions that recognize any marriage between 2 individuals that is valid under state law. So effectively, they removed the definition of marriage being between a man and a woman. They also replaced provisions that do not require states to recognize same-sex marriages from other states with a provision that prohibit the denial of full faith and credit or any right or claim relating to out-of-state marriages on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. So in other words, if you do get married in another state, even if your state doesn't recognize it, you have to recognize their marriage as valid in your state. So even if it was overturned, even if Utah did... well, to that point, let's go to Utah. Wrong one right here. Wrong one. Do I not have it? I do have it right here. So this is the Utah Constitution, Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 29, Marriage. Marriage consists only of the legal union between a man and a woman. No other domestic union, however denominated, may be recognized as a marriage or given the same or substantially equivalent legal effect. So first and foremost, I feel like this bill here what was its wordage again? For the purpose of federal law, marriage between a man and a woman and spouse is a person, a couple, same sex, and provision that recognizes any marriage between two individuals that is valid under state law. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this negates, did it again, this one. I feel like it negates it. I feel like, what's the point of having it? Like, the Utah Constitution isn't going to matter because the federal government already overruled what marriage is. They've defined a marriage, so Utah state can't define a marriage. And then second, even if they did, Utah would still have to recognize it. Now, so if it was overturned, I don't see anything is changing. I don't think anything will. If on the small chance I'm wrong here and Utah, based on our legal definition, could keep our definition and we wouldn't be forced to recognize these marriages, I think very quickly the Utah legislature would make changes or just outright accept that the federal law says that it overrides this law. I think what we should have done in the beginning was just created civil unions for these individuals, give them similar benefits, especially like tax law and everything. I know that there were discussions about not being able to go to the hospital and things. Personally, I feel like that's just a hospital issue. They should have dealt with that, but I don't know how big that actually was. I was younger at the time. But from my perspective, what's happened is people think that this is going to overturn. I don't think it's going to get overturned. I think if anything, they're going to continue to accept the religious rights. You can see down here, this act does not affect religious liberties or conscious protections that are available under the Constitution or federal law, require religious organizations to provide goods or services to formally recognize or celebrate a marriage, and affect any benefits or rights that do not arise from a marriage or recognize under federal law any marriage between more than two individuals. So from a religious standpoint, Utah is very heavily LDS, and there's a lot of other Christians here as well. They're not going to have to marry these individuals. They're not forced to perform any of these ceremonies. So again, like, it doesn't change anything. They'll still be able to go to the state. They'll still be able to get their legal document, their contract saying that they are married. So let's kind of get into how Utah feels about it anyways, because regardless of it, apparently Utah, let's go to the poll here, strongly agree. 50% of Utahns strongly agree. This is according to a 2022 poll. 50% strongly agree, 22% somewhat agree. So that's 72% of Utahns agree. Now, I fall into this 14% strongly disagree. I think marriage, as a definition, is between a man and a woman. I also believe that marriage is for the purpose of biological reproduction. Now, I understand that not all married couples can have kids, even if they are a male and a female. But regardless, the point of marriage is to form a family unit in which the procreation of life is supposed to exist. So for me, I fall very strongly in the strongly disagree 14%. That does not mean that I feel that the gays should not be allowed to have civil unions. I don't understand why they can't afford the same rights. To me, the issue is about changing the definition of the word marriage. I hate when governments force the changing of a definition. One of the best examples is the word gender. For the longest time, for all of our human history, we have seen gender as sex. And I know people try to make the argument that it's not, but even the majority of Americans still think of gender as sex. They don't see them as actually different. Everyone tries to force this down us, saying, no, they're different. It's a social construct. It's a spectrum. No, sex is male and female. Gender is just another word in the English language that represents the exact same thing. So if you're going to change the definition by force, well, I'm just going to stop recognizing that gender is even a word. So I don't even think gender is a thing. There is sex. There's biological sex. There's male and female. Some males happen to be attracted to other males. Some females happen to be attracted to other females. That is a thing. There is no in between that. There are only two different options here. You can be attracted to males, you can be attracted to women, and I guess in some cases you can be attracted to both. But those are the only options. That's how I feel with marriage as well. Marriage, by definition, is between a man and a woman, and I don't feel that we should ever have to worry about changing that. Now, again, Utah disagrees with me. I'd love to understand why you disagree with me, why, especially if you are LDS or Christian denomination, why you feel that marriage, why it is acceptable that gay couples should be allowed to get married in this traditional sense. Because again, I don't see it, like for me, it's just a definition of the word. You can't just change the definition of word. I can't just say that grass is now a leaf from a tree, because it is not a tree leaf. It is grass. It is something on the ground that I walk on. Probably not the best analogy. It's the first one that came in my mind, so I'm going to stick with it. But from my perspective, this just doesn't make any sense. But Utah's going to do what Utah does. And I think we're going to end up not seeing any changes here. But if I do notice any changes, I'll do another video. If there's an updated poll, we'll talk about it. If they do end up hearing the case, I'll do a little bit more research and look into this more. But from my perspective, I think this is a big nothing burger. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family, share it with your dog and your cat, share it with anyone you know, and we'll go from there. Thanks.